like to sell them a Klimapolis agenda. It is related to air pollution, but they have a huge problem with waste, and they would like to involve us, engage us in their problems. And then we started to reply for them, and we organized this meeting to evaluate the problem and to have the opportunity to heard people there what they suggested for to improve their problems in the place. And then we made these guidelines to improve the place, and then the local mayor started some improvements, not exactly guided by us, but he started something there. Next, please. And in the same meeting, it was very important because we also install the pluviometers, and we showed to the students the pluviometers, and we installed the pluviometers, which allowed us next to have the data about the rainfall in the local school. But it is a platform called Pluviom, which uses as a point to install not only in this school, but we have, I think, 6 points in Itaim Paulista to capture data of rainfall. It was not useful for our hydrological models now because we need 20 years, but in 20 years we will have a bunch of relevant data to do that. Okay, next, Martin, please. And then we have also this, we also include in the agenda of the students the air pollution theme subject. And then we made this experiment with the support of IAG and EASH, which was led by Maria de Fátima, Regina, Rita, and Leonardo and Luana, who led an experiment to make sensors. We have a first talk with the students about the air pollution and the problem of health in the place, and they talk about their experiments. Oh, yes, can you, yes, you need to play the video. It is a video, yes, which show the, yeah, it's very slow, this experience. This is Leonardo, he's a student of Maria de Fátima. This is the school, the local school. This is the students. We are talking about air pollution and health, and Maria de Fátima is talking with them. Rita is Martin, and they organized a very pedagogic guidelines to build these sensors, particular PM10 sensors. It was a very nice experiment. They loved. So, and because of that actions, we can have this position in the subprefeitura. We have now we have an office in subprefeitura of Itaim Paulista. It was very important to foster the experiments. Next, Martin, I will finish. And then we started to monitoring the land use in the Lajeado Basin. It was a catchment, Lajeado catchment. And when the COVID-19 started, and then we should stop these studies in the field. But we launched a charity, next Martin please, a charity action in the same place, in the Torresmo settlements, and we mobilized the Klimapolis community to found this action for the Torresmo settlements, and they gave me a beautiful message. They told me they loved to have the food and the basic supply, but they are also proud to be part of a university study. Next, please. Uh, and then we started this modeling of Lajado catchment. We organized this as a course that engaged civil engineering students, and also with the support of the São Paulo Development Company, and with the support of the Institute of Technological Research. And we did this, we are doing this course aimed to construct the basis, the databases we need to run these models we had seen several times in Klimapolis, led by Christopher Sauer and Professor Peter Fruhl. Then we have the organized the databases, and we are starting this agreement with Professor Peter Fruhl and Christoph Sauer. We are having frequently meetings to do the Calypso switch running in the Lajeado catchment. Then it is, I think we will have in the next month something, I believe. Next, please, Martin. Oh, it's up to you.
Indeed. I mean, no, thank you very much, Anna Paula, for sharing your experience. And I think it became very clear what it means to start a real-world laboratory, and how you're kind of switching roles between being an academic, or just a human being organizing some, help somehow, and or a kind of politician, or at least an activist at the street. And I think that is very important, because by thus you're starting to gain an understanding that makes something like a citizen science project, as these air pollution sensors are, into something of a real constellation from where you can learn of. And I just wanted to have this picture that I showed at the beginning to start kind of stressing that the real world laboratory is not about a kind of community project, but rather something to start a process where you can kind of identify and build some problems, and might become then later well, the task or research question for your scientific work. And just from that Integrative lab, we want to show you 4 examples what that actually caused as a kind of scientific project. So the first is actually the PhD program, and that is Anna's role again to explain a little bit more. So we just flip through so that you get ideas why this is research, and with that later we will end and open the floor for the discussion. So please, Anna.
So the PhD program is based on 2 formal agreements we have with the city government in cultural heritage and Itaim Paulista Lab experiment. And then we have these 2 research lines. And the second research line is related to our experiment in Itaim Paulista, and it was approved. And in the formal document is mentioned our partnership with the Klimapolis and Hafen City University. And then it was very important for us to have this partnership to approve this PhD program. It is our first call for students, and we are very happy to achieve these very concrete academic achievement to respond to real problems in the peripheral areas of east zone of São Paulo, in which University of São Judas is located in. It's next. in this interesting modeling, hydrological modeling course. It is very interesting experiment because it puts together different levels of the city government. Then the company of São Paulo urban development is in the same round table of Itaim Paulista local authorities, and it has been very, very nice. And other important aspects is to join students from architecture and urban field with students of engineering fields. I think this is two important things, and it consolidated a lot our partnership with São Paulo Urbanismo. It is the São Paulo Development Company, and with the Institute of Technological Research. I think this partnership is very important, and they are already adopting the hydrological concept to frame the diagnosis of development system. We are in agreement to include this kind of studies in the diagnostic for urban development. It has not before.
Yeah, very well. So, I mean, this is just kind of to show you that, well, the pictures at the beginning might be misleading. It's not about being on the ground, but really kind of, harvesting that for real world problems and academic disciplines. So we have seen two of them, and now we are coming to Regina, because I think this is kind of the most, large academic project that might come out of that. So Regina, maybe you could explain us a little bit about the 3 slides that are following now.
Yes, thank you, Martin and Ana Paula. I just will talk about future actions for Klimapolis related to Lab Itaim Paulista and air quality. So we intend to propose a research project covering other capitals in addition to São Paulo, and replicating success cases such as the Itaim Paulista Laboratory. Ana showed some parts, and considering that few Brazilian capitals have an air quality monitoring network. I think the first day, Leon, I don't remember the name, but he mentioned something about that for Piauí. I don't remember, sorry. So here in São Paulo, our metropolitan region has a good air quality monitoring network. We can see here the picture covering the municipality. But this conventional equipment is expensive. So next, please. Next slide. So we intend, as the main objectives of the proposal of the project, we intend to identify the main sources of emissions in the eastern part of São Paulo, and elaborate a plan for locating and installing pollutants sensors related to Itaim Paulista, developing a new system composed of the air quality modeling and measurements of pollutants using low-cost sensors at some capital cities in Brazil. And the first site, a pilot study, will be in the east zone of São Paulo. And we intend to implement measurement technology using these local sensors in other Brazilian cities where there is no air quality monitoring. Use the regional simulation to provide regional climate downscaling. Evaluate local scale personal exposure assessment using these local sensors. And finally, a discussion with managers, health professionals, and local community to show the results and to share the results and environmental education. And so we intended to use some pilot studies in Itaim Paulista and new pilot studies we intended to develop to implement in this project. And another project Yes, another project that now is financed by our Pró-Reitoria de Cultura e Extensão from USP, Provost for Culture and Extension, and also financed by WRI, is related to air pollution and childhood, and also related to Sustainable Development Goals number 13. And in this project, next month maybe, or the beginning of the next year, we will make monitoring of concentrations of PM 2.5 in schools in São Paulo, inside and outside classrooms, using low-cost sensors, and in different parts of the city, north, south, east, and west parts of São Paulo. So we think that these initiatives, this project is consolidated. The another one we intend to propose to FAPESP in the next month. But with these two projects, we intended to cover a good part related to air pollution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Regina, for showing that project. I think that is the most advanced in terms of, you know, scalability and transferability of these research projects. And I think it makes it very clear that it's not about staying at a site when you decide to work with a real world problem, but rather learning from there and then seeing how that can inspire problems, problematications you have in your discipline that you can address within as being academic again. Just as a last one, this is from Anna Paula, from Anita and Katrin and me, where we started to do a publication. I think it became a nucleus of thought about governance in that sense when from everything that we learned about the Itampalista lab, it actually did align very well with some modes of governance, that the concept that Katrin brought in, which is based on experiments in 600 cities all over the world. And it also uses the experimentation as a mode of governance. But what we also saw in the actions that we saw on the ground, that there are some actors that want to deliberately stay outside of the system because they challenge the dominant power structure or the way the structure under which planning and participation is organized, but they might kind of be as conflicting actors, be put together in a kind of a system of innovation for time. And that would be actually a very interesting question to follow up in more research on governance. So do modes of governance have complementary modes of action? Might become a publication, but it also might be the starting of a new strand of research also within Klimapolis, coming from that experience in the real world laboratory. So with this, as I said, it's just not a kind of a result or kind of a list of our achievements. It was more meant to kind of make it a bit more concrete how real world laboratories might be useful in finding new research projects and new partnerships and new collaborations within the Klimapolis project, and especially now learning from that part and from all the experience we have gained in Sao Paulo, and maybe transfer it to some other places, and probably Natal is the place we first look at. So with that, we would like to kind of start a discussion on integrative studies, and we do that actually with the questions that we got from Nico that could be interesting to discuss here. So how to make scientifically sound and policy relevant real world labs. Some examples, but whereas more, what are the issues connected with these real world labs? How can we integrate those results? And I think that means in policy as well as in science. So how can we integrate it in that? And probably most interesting is, of course, how to replicate successful stories in other cities, not how we are looking at them. So with this, I would like to kind of open the floor. I do that by stop sharing my screen, because for debate, I usually like it a lot if we took to talk to people and not to slides. With that, I thank you very much for your attention. I'm really successful, curious on what we could discuss, looking at these examples. So, I don't know, maybe we can start with a first round of question that might be kind of connecting to, well, maybe you want to hear or learn a little bit more about one of the projects that we have seen. Otherwise, I try to organize it, yes. If there's somebody raising a hand, we can step on the floor.
Martin, I'm the only one who cannot raise hand because I'm hosting the Zoom session. So I'll jump in.
I see you. You know that there's still an analog way of doing things. Yeah, right. Nico, please.
So yeah, fantastic, and I think this integration that around the activities that started being developed 5 years ago by the Lab tie-in with University St. Judas and the integration with the city government, and then it brought together all the other possible activities in terms of the air pollution that Regina with IAG are also developing. And I think this brings the aspect of all these integrative are perhaps where we can really make a difference. However, we can never forget that in all those disciplines, there are basic sciences still to be developed as part of the groups within Klimapolis. So I think these integrative studies are important to go and make the difference in different locations, wherever they are. Even in São Paulo, we can move from Itaim Paulista to the west of the city, for example, or south, or then to other regions, always respecting, I guess, the local differences, cultural, the physical aspects of the city. If we go to the northeast, most of the metropolitan areas are coastal cities. So I think there's a lot of discussions for us as a group in Klimapolis to have and to decide how to best approach this exchange of knowledge. I don't like to talk about transfer of knowledge. It's the exchange of knowledge, one learning to the other. Because if we bring these successful stories to other places, you may discover things perhaps in those other places and say, oh, we haven't thought about that in the original plan, right? So, and then you can bring together and revisit that. So it's just a comment to really encourage all the partners to really see this as really as a successful story to what can we do locally here using this network within Klimapolis to make things happen. Sensors, for example, low-cost sensors, there are many partners within Klimapolis who have interest, are developing something that can be further discussed. And again, funding is always an issue to try to get those things, but it is something that we need to really start discussing among ourselves.
Yeah, thank you very much for this comment. It also brought me a lot on kind of, well, in the preparation of this talk today, it reminded me a lot on what we have discussed yesterday. So just going back to Christian's words, where he said actually there is research on successful projects, transdisciplinary projects. I mean, they spend a lot of time at the beginning of trying to build the team, but later they are more successful in raising a relevant and innovative research question. And that was something that I had in mind when we talked about the real world labs. Of course, as you can see with Paula's presentation, it's lots of effort to start something at the beginning, and it's very hard to get that into a line of funding, of course. But in the end, it might come up with some research questions that could be, well, very useful, but also very innovative in your line. And so but the problem is how to start it actually. Um,
Can I suggest something?
yes, please.
If I can. So like I said yesterday, I think when you work institutionally too much, like we're doing, we say, oh, we have to do things, we have meetings, we have video conference. Nothing is better, in fact, than having person-to-person initiative.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, then you don't even need the project in a way, like if I want to work with one of you on a topic that we both like to deal with, they might not be completely transdisciplinary at the beginning, but it doesn't really matter because they can become later. And so, for example, having something on one topic that you like to do, just that you like to do. That's of course in the framework of Klimapolis. And then you find on the other side of the Atlantic a person who is also interested, and okay, then we start working on this. So I was mentioning yesterday, for example, it's not very interdisciplinary. It's a bit narrow, but we like to do for all South America, including Brazil, a prediction system for air quality. Okay, that's the first step. After that, we can do an attribution. That's very important for policy, defining where the bad sources are for air quality, etc. But so what I think we do is, like the people who work with me, we want to talk to Judith, to Paula, to other people who do more or less the same. And then, even independently of the project, we would like to do it. And then, of course, we'll put it under the project. And because we're very interested in doing it. So if we think too much about, what is the framework, how could we do it, where do we find the money, etc., we'll never get anywhere. But if we do something small, and then it's going to be bigger, and then maybe bigger, and then not a lot of people will be interested. We could do it. I picked the air quality as an example. It could be, of course, many other topics. So maybe that's the best way to proceed. So identify the partner, talk to the partner individually, come up with something, a paper together, a study together, a live lab together, something.
Mm-hmm. Well, absolutely. So you're actually, so we are starting with love and sympathy, and then we can turn that into hard scientific projects. But I mean, this kind of finding new partners and want to work together with is a part of this real world lab too. So, and I think it's very interesting because it gives us a kind of an accepted format of research that we can use of doing exactly what you propose, kind of starting with some small experiments. It might be completely open. We're not absolutely sure about the result, but starting something that can, by the will of a collaboration, can turn into something useful. That's how I understood you. So, and the interesting part now would be how we can kind of, define these little partnerships and find these partnerships within the existing network, and seeing the next point where we can start. Vinicius, is this a, yeah? So please, if you would like to share your microphone with us.
Yeah.
Oh, now I see it in digital way too. I'm more an analog person, unfortunately.
Yeah. So good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for the presentation. I really enjoyed what was presented, especially when it comes to the low-cost sensors. I don't know how much you guys remember, but one of the sensors I received as a Christmas gift, and I brought that to Brazil because now I'm here and I'm in the Federal University of Espírito Santo. And when I came here, one of my main projects was to work in a project called Asmovix. I've just checked if there are some colleagues from the university on YouTube, but so far I couldn't see. So what we want to accomplish, we have a team of people from the health science, some engineers, some people from basic natural science, and we want to understand a bit better what is the role of air quality on asthma, because Victoria is considered the capital of respiratory diseases in Brazil. And most of those places that we are researching, those are low income neighborhoods. I've got the chance to visit some of those, and I was very much interested in using those low cost sensors, and was good to know that some colleagues were already investigating, and we are approaching here indoor air quality and outdoor air quality. So yeah, so far UFA is not yet a part of Klimapolis, and we have discussed with Nico, and he will come here, or online he will appear, and will give us a talk to explain a bit more how the lab could really, yeah, our group could contribute to Klimapolis. But I could see that perhaps this replication aspect, for instance, maybe Martin, Anna, and also Regina, we could discuss, because I'm also co-supervising a PhD that is working on this indoor, outdoor aspects of ratios, infiltration of air, so on and so forth. But I'm also leading some talks, science talks to, let's say, the layman people. We partner with an NGO that we are trying to give this, yeah, social justice and sharing environmental education. So I would love to, yeah, further discuss with you guys. It's more of a comment, but just for you guys to know that we are somehow in the same, yeah, we have the same interest, but we didn't talk yet.
No, absolutely beautiful. I mean, it sounds like kind of a project that needs to have a partner in the local sensors from Regina, and would be kind of a mutual match somehow. And I really think it's like, wow, the kind of projects we could embrace and frame within the Klimapolis network quite well. I have one question towards Regina. Do you want to work with Vinicius? It's obvious, but I mean, you have the chat, so we can just kind of.
No, just answering his comment. We will need partners for sensors outside São Paulo, because we don't have. We have experience with low cost sensors, as Ana Paula showed, but we are also learning how to manage the sensors, what model we intended to buy, because we have different models. Martin knows about that. We discussed something, and we are deciding if we use this model or another model. But this project I mentioned in schools, we are using a low-cost sensor for PM2.5. The Airbeam, the model is Airbeam. They have a site. Maybe it's an alternative, but we need another one for gases. So if you have any suggestion, Vinicius, about model, Judith tell us they are developing local sensors. Okay, and oh, thank you, Judith. You can put me in contact with Moises. Okay, so this project we intended to send in this year, but because of the pandemic, COVID-19, and surface measurements impossible. So next year we intended to propose the project, and we certainly we need help from other partners outside São Paulo, Judith and Vinicius, and another partners, and in Rio Grande do Norte, and Piauí, and João Pessoa. Okay.
And that is really interesting because this idea of using low-cost sensors seems to come such a simple model at first, but just when you apply it, you see some of the possibilities and also the kind of complicated and tricky questions that might be relevant and you have to use. So that's why. Eduardo, you raised your hand. Could you share your thoughts with us?
Yes. First of all, I'm glad to attend the workshop again, to see you, meet some new faces, virtually though, but I hope soon that we'll be all together in somewhere in Brazil or here in Germany. And and building on the last comments, actually, I have a suggestion. Perhaps it is already in the agenda, or I don't know, but this perhaps it would be nice for us to have a map, like an online platform where we can see who is doing what in terms of research related to Klimapolis, so that we can find our partners and also get in touch and jump in not necessarily in projects that we are very strongly related, but sometimes new projects. For me, I would be curious. I have no clue about like climate modeling or air pollution and so on specifically. But if I find a project that is very interesting for me, a systematic review or whatever, maybe I could jump in, exchange some ideas, or if I have a project and someone is interested in it, you guys would be very welcome to join. So this kind of, so that we can have like a map, like a map, who from which institution is doing what, and then I think that this we keep exchanging ideas after the workshop as well, not only during such nice events and so on. So this is a suggestion. I don't know whether we already have this in mind, but I'll be glad to cooperate and to help with this also. And thank you for the nice presentations as well.
Thank you for listening and giving us this beautiful idea, because I do think that there's a lot of, we started in a certain form randomly by certain partners coming together, not knowing exactly with whom they're working about. And now we're starting to gain a little bit more of the profiles of different people, but still it's not concrete and we're growing. So it would be very helpful to have some kind of map of people and knowledges that we might use to find a new partner. So I guess that is certainly something we keep. Judith, you raised your hand. Would you like to contribute exactly to that?
Yes, thank you, Martin. I was trying to raise my hand digitally and I couldn't confirm on the screen whether it was raised or not.
I wouldn't have seen it anyway, so I think it was right.
Okay, well, I just want to comment on what has been said before. So we have here in Natal, Regina, a colleague, Professor Moises, he's a colleague of Jean Tavares. I don't know if Jean is with us here at the moment. Too many little pictures here on my screen. Yes, so they have developed sensors for greenhouse gases and installed them in different places in the state here of Rio Grande do Norte. And also our colleague from the Federal University of Campina Grande, Professor Carlos, who is here with us, he also just sent a message here via the chat that they also develop and have published work about low-cost sensors. So I think this is one of the strategic approaches here for the Northeastern region, that we can have actually some measurements and reduce the number, have a few higher cost, more elaborated monitoring stations that we can use for calibration for the low-cost sensors, and then have a network of low-cost sensors that can actually provide us with some in situ measurements on pollutants, on aerosol, on gases, and maybe also meteorological sensors. This would be really important for the development, so that we can evaluate define the uncertainties that we have with air quality models, atmospheric models, because we don't have this kind of data here. The only thing that we have is remote sensing data. And this is not the best if we want to know close to the surface, how do the pollutants affect actually in a more direct way the population. right? So this, I think, is one of the crucial points. And if we do it with citizen science, it would also involve the social component, I think, and maybe we could integrate, for example, colleagues from the Instituto Humanitas at UFN and also colleagues from Germany or from Sao Paulo, and build up a task force to build up these kind of networks. I think this would be a very interesting task, and that we could try at first do it for one city in the Northeast, and then expand and transfer or exchange, as Nico said, our knowledge with other cities and expand this kind of network. So this is a vision I have for the Northeast. This is something that we really need, and yes, this would be excellent if we could establish something like that over the next times.
Yeah, beautiful. So, I mean, we see already that there is a kind of a growing, fascination around these low-cost sensors, and maybe they are this kind of real object that make the bridge between different disciplines and a certain locality, and that's why I find them very useful. And so we have already something growing here, and lots of collaboration that we could continue with. I have raised hands from Anita, I think, and from Katrin. No, Anita was not, and Eddie Clay, I was not sure if you talk with somebody behind your screen or want to jump into this discussion. So you do want to jump into this discussion. Then I think Eddie Clay is first, and then Katrin, please.
Yes, I would, first of all, congratulations for the project in Tallinn. It's quite amazing to see the first results. And I would like to ask you about this new normal posed by COVID-19, and what's the perspective, how this affect your project, and what do you think about the continuation of this project for the next years? Because I think in Sao Paulo the things are a bit complex, and the community must be afraid to interact with other people, and in science cannot stop because of that. And yes, I want to know how to continue this project and this direct interaction with the community in this new normal. What do you think? And because also the stakeholders, the mayors just can say to you, this is not our priority right now. And how do you convince these people that this is also important? This is also has an important impact on the health of the people, on the well-being of the society. So yes, I want to ask you that.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a very tricky question. It's a question to all of us, and I think it relates to almost everything we do right now. So, of course, you have to see how to cope with the situation that changes all the time. So basically, COVID-19 is in the end a respiratory disease. So I think a direct link to air pollution and everything. So maybe it even creates new possibilities for us. But you're right, of course, a real-world laboratory approach is an exchange on the ground with real people in a kind of a real setting, and that is very complicated at the moment. So I would not have a kind of very good answer at first, but just kind of trying to see in where we can find the new connections maybe. Renato, I think you want to just respond directly to that. No, okay, to another one, because then if there is something you want to answer ethically personally,
I think I would like
yes.
to jump in this little discussion, because I think we should have in mind that in the informal settlements, the isolation is a very middle class possibility. In these settlements, people are living in overcrowding homes, and they are doing things to live. And if you saw in the photos that I show in the kit supply, action. There is a lot of people. We tried a lot to put people in a line with distance, but it was impossible, and it was very hard. And it is I think this is important to highlight. Well, the second point, we are doing very different activities in terms of modeling. I think we solved that, focus on modeling in that part, and changed from the ground, because we are afraid, and we are isolated. But we should deal with that in the future, because I think there is no real labs without contact on the ground. And then we should find a way to solve this, even with a lot of safety measurement for us. But we should respond to that in the certain way. Maybe creating some attending post in the subprefeitura, something we should do in the next future, because I'm eager to come back.
Yes, I think it's kind of we do have some activities going on, maybe, so it's a time to develop them first. So, but also it might change the priorities, but it gives us an opportunity to link with some of them and gain more attraction than we had before, maybe. So it's a bit a part of our creativity. I have signs from Katrin and then Renato, and would also kind of just sign a little bit that we have around 10 minutes until the next discussion. So in that sense, I think we are coming more or less to the closeness. Katrin, please.
Yeah, hello everyone. Good to see you after such a long time, at least online. Yeah, thanks a lot to Martin also for the great presentation. Also yesterday's presentation were very interesting. I couldn't join the first day, unfortunately. I have just a short idea or comment. So if someone works with these data or is actually getting new data on air pollution and is interested in some kind of exchange on the governance or planning aspects of air pollution. So I'm a lawyer, and Martin Wickel and me, we have worked on air pollution planning governance issues in Germany a lot, and I have some contacts to Brazilian lawyers as well that could join, like Deborah was already a guest in the Klimapolis round, Deborah Soto, as a lawyer who's also familiar with air pollution regulation in Sao Paulo and Brazil in general. So if someone's working on a local scale in this regard and wants to consider what the local community, the city can actually do with the data to integrate it in some kind of strategic air pollution planning, then I'm happy to support that kind of exchange and process. So even if it's just online for now, giving the pandemic times, but then maybe in the future also, again, via being there, or also having some exchange with Germany. I'm with the University of Freiburg now currently, so that would be really interesting, and I'm open for that.
Thank you very much for this offer. So I mean, probably it will be used, and it shows again how this simple thing about measuring air quality can become this complex problem, or the complex thing that makes it useful for research, but also for transformation. Renato, we wanted to, I got your kind of hand and would like to hear what you are contributing. Hi.
Hi, Martin. Nice to see all of you here on the screen. Next time, maybe in person. So I will make some few remarks. Yeah, so maybe in person. We have spent some days, some weeks learning about the bibliography of climate change applied to São Paulo. I decided to produce an article, a paper, and so pandemic situation is good for that. So, and I took the challenge to try to understand, to read what people, what you all are writing, and it's very difficult for me because I'm an architect and urban planner. So as far as I understood, I wrote this article. It will be published in the next weeks, in the following weeks, and things that what I learned of this for this challenge of interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity, whatever. So we have this a great, huge difficulty of the scientists to understand the cities. So we talk about these in our previous meetings. So it's not only my problem to understand what the scientists are writing, but you understand the city. I should just focus some key questions. One is, what's the role of the urbanization to produce the climate change, and what climate change affects the urbanization in the city, the real city. The first thing is to understand, to make scenarios for the future. I think this is a point that is some scientists produce research as making models of kind of natural growth of the cities, just based in the previous growth. So, and this is quite wrong, because we have planning, and the city is changing the direction of the growth in some ways. So I really appreciate one paper wrote by Bender, Freitas, and people from the EAG, about the impact of future urban scenarios on severe weather cases in the metropolitan area of São Paulo. This paper is really nice because he makes some modeling of the scenarios produced by the master plan. So not only by the real city as it is, but as it is planned. So we can change we can change this planning. This is hard. Yeah, I will take one as yours, Martin. This is my next step, or Vinicius. So you are a professional. So this is a small sample of the problems. How this planning will produce new situations of heat islands, as intense floods or water scarcity in the future, and how it is distributed in the region. This is our main goal. So, and this lab of Ana Paula at Itaim Paulista is just taken as a case study of all these. So the modeling that she's producing with these PhD students and in collaboration with Peter Kohler in Technical University is really a good chance to compare our methodologies to produce the hydrological model, to understand what will change with this new distribution and intensity and frequency of rains in São Paulo. So this is a small sample of what we can do together in these different disciplines. For your question about the COVID in São Paulo, one thing that's very interesting is how to deal with GIS information of social situations in the outskirts. So we worked with colleagues from the Federal of ABC on urban planning department, and they, in the beginning of April, Lucena Travassos, who is a partner in some researches, she predicted where will be concentrated most of the contamination and the deaths, only analyzing the concentrations of housing density the demographic housing density, less than 6 persons for house, and the age older than 60 years old. So, and she made this, she appointed and located all what will happen, and it really happened. And the public, the administrations of the state and city government didn't nothing on this to avoid this. We have to convince, to explain the governors and the mayors with the analysis of these data that we have already. We can preview the spread of a disease like that, and maybe produce something to avoid it. Now, Ana Paula and the students can't go walking around, but in Paulista, but some of the partners there are doing drone surveys on the area. So with some knowledge of the area that we don't have, so they can find the places where and produce the path for the flight and to capture the images on site. So this is really important, because as Martin was talking about, was not only is not only the work on site, but how we at the university, in different universities, we can have the information that came from the site and make questions for them and share the answers for these questions. So I think we are find a way to collaborate in this sense. That's it, Martin. Thank you.
Thank you a lot for this contribution. Also, I think you touched a very interesting point about this, how planning actually changed reality, but not as a plan. Because I mean, the way how the planning is dealt out, it has a certain effect, but it's not kind of the common future. And in that sense, it's an interesting part about this modeling and simulation and forecasting that is not only an exploration of historic realities, takes into account the planning, but with knowing that it probably will kind of have a certain transformation variation while becoming implemented. And that is really super interesting to have such a complex system of factors and parameters in developing new scenarios. So I guess that this could be really something we could work upon. Also, the question on data is, especially in a time of being not present, something that becomes very interesting and very much more important, especially for areas that do not have this data. That was something that we had in the first comments also, that of course there are air pollution sensors somewhere, but where you need them the most, and sometimes they're just missing. And so it's a way how to actually cope with this lack of data, but thus a lack of policies that could address or could be based on this data. And I think also here, the new normal could be really interesting way, because suddenly you just need much more the local population because they're already there and you can't access it. And on the other hand side, also opens up a kind of a space for new experiments using anthropological ethnographic data on images produced by people, in order to really do a co-research between the people who live there already and the ones, I don't know, maybe scientists from Germany who would like to know something. So I guess it could actually really be a kind of an opportunity for much more possibilities, instead of just limiting us to sitting in our little study room and knowing that there's a world around that we can't reach. I also saw that in the chat we have actually a super interesting discussion and hundreds of new collaborations already. So that I think so. We have at first this kind of a strong vow for a map of activities, of people, of research interests that might also be very useful for the website. On the other hand side, I would also like to stress what our kind of getting back what Guy said at the very beginning of this discussion. In terms of these kind of collaborations, there are active collaborations and dead lists. So I do have the feeling that within this network, it's very much about getting to know each other by working together and by thus extending things. So that's why I'm really super happy to have in the chat and also here in the discussion already identified very new partners who expressed the wish to work together. And I hope this will kind of make our exchange much more stronger and getting us to know each much better than only the kind of list of maps of people that we have around. And with this, as we are ending or we're coming to the end of our session, I would like just to use this opportunity to ask for some last questions, proposals that you would like to contribute and put into the room. I have one sign from Vinicius. Otherwise, it is silent. So I would give Vinicius the last remark, comment, or question that you might have.
Thank you very much, Martin. I just wanted to say how the whole idea of the low-cost sensors came up, because we were, as I said, monitoring indoor and outdoor air quality. And then we wanted to enter in those houses where there were already people that had respiratory diseases and they were a risk group for COVID-19. And then I just thought, yeah, so why not low-cost sensors? Just let the sensor over there, and then we start to monitor the monitoring, so on and so forth. And then the idea was just expanding. And also because those houses now, people, just close the windows. They didn't want to have so much air exchange. And then you have the problem with so many air pollutants. And like Paula said, in the first day, we are, for instance, looking for fungi. There is something that is not so often legislated, and you don't see it very often. So I just see that this new normality, coming to what Ediclet said, can be a good, real experiment that was not initiated by us, and we have the chance to learn some new things. And this is how I see the low cost and many possibilities that we can get in this new normality.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for this, what's almost like a concluding remark. In that sense, I have, first, I'm very happy that we raised so many different topics, and especially looking in the chat, also if somebody's saying, oh, I have some idea, and then at least two people saying, oh, here, it's me. So I think we are in a very good way just to let that not only be in the informal part. I would like to make a proposal to end this session, that you have the email addresses of other people. Maybe you want to reach out to them and start to see if you can collaborate. But it would be really cool if everybody who made a project proposal can maybe just make it again and send it to Nico. Also, if you're starting talking together and there is something that might be a little bit more, comes a little bit more into a kind of a more stable mode, it would be just super interesting to know about it. Maybe you can also send them email to Nico, or if you have a new project, and then we could try to compile it after 1 week and send it around, and then maybe we have already a first map of interest based on that. So that would be my proposal. So if you have an idea, if you are talking with somebody already, or if you are looking for something, just try to phrase it in one paragraph and send it to Nico. We collect it and then make a kind of a first documentation of this. Otherwise, I'm really happy for the participation, for the great ideas, and I would like now hand over to Nico as our maître de conférencier, who will continue then the next part of the session. Right, thanks.
Great, thanks, Martin. Just really nice discussion, and I think this is what Klimapolis is about: this exchange of opportunities, ideas, and to further this collaboration. I mean, as looking at the chat, just went nuts with all the proposals and the new things that that can happen. We're never going to say, or at least I'm never going to say it's too late, because there's always something new that we can talk about. And like Martin just finished, I think would be interesting and necessary if you send me the projects that you are working with. I am the professional gossiper, because I need to get the information and transmit. right, to the others that are working together. And I don't mind being a gossiper. So, but I need to know, because sometimes it's difficult to go and try to find out those things. So this leads me to the next part of our discussion, and then also answering and what Edu proposed and all the others mentioned. On the first day, you saw that I had that long presentation of all the partners and the topics that it's certainly not comprehensive, but topics of where those institutional partners can contribute to the Klimapolis research themes. So that was a first step towards having this map of activities, right, that we can certainly feed into the website. But again, I will need the information from you, what you are working, because I can't guess. And if I guess, I can guess wrong, and then you're going to get angry with me because, oh, how did you say that? I don't do that, or you forgot about the. So I need the information from you. So all those things will be, so in the next weeks and months, I will be contacting each of those individual partners, because you have to agree to have, we are in Europe. I have to comply with all the data protection and everything. So any information, including pictures, you have to agree. All the information that goes there, I will be contacting you to. So please, if you see an email from me, don't ignore. I want to believe I'm a nice person. Just respond. I know you are all busy, but I'll try to ask not a lot of information, but you do need to provide information to me. So, like I said, that first day, it was just a first cut on this institutional mapping of who is doing, or who can contribute on what. And you remember, I'm gonna share my screen now here to bring you back to no, wrong one. Sorry. Wrong slide. I can close this one, so then there's no problem. So yeah. So I'm bringing you back to the Klimapolis research themes. And we have discussed and developed those when we had the meeting here in Hamburg, because that was the preparation for the Klimapolis Laboratory and what we would tell BMBF at the time, how we would construct the laboratory and what we would be developing. So we had a good discussion about that. We returned somehow when we had the meeting in May 2019 in São Paulo to try to align some of things. I don't think we were, to be honest, successful in aligning the activities that partners are developing and can contribute to all of those. So what I would like, and another motivation is that not only partners can work more together, but can also develop material, write-ups that could be perhaps used somehow to calls in the future. So just as I mentioned on the first day, to avoid all, not the first day, yesterday, when we were all discussing about the response to the questionnaire, one of the issues is funding, and we need to make the most of any funding opportunity that appears. And sometimes we are too late because we are late in putting things together, which it is a fair point when you think everybody is busy and doing other things as well. But if we want to advance the research themes, or if we want to advance the research of Klimapolis, we need to start discussing this. So what I try to do, and I will show in the next slides, based on that mapping that I made the first day, I tried to put which institutions can contribute to each of those 1 to 9 points there in preparing something that could somehow look like a Klimapolis Science Plan. What are the key, and this is about cities, metropolitan areas, urban areas in Brazil. We are not going to solve the problems all urban areas in the world. We are not going to solve the particular issue of São Paulo or Natal. So there are generic themes that apply to urban areas in Brazil. But I wanted to try to get this information, to try to build this science plan with questions, scientific questions that go against each of those topics. We can always change this, have a discussion and change those topics. This is an evolution. This is how we do science. The mapping that I did, I may have, again, I apologize in advance if I forgot someone, if I put you in the wrong place. So this is the time to really tell me, we need to do this. We need to change this. I don't want to be there. My group doesn't do that, or I want to be there. And more than that, once we agree to those things, I would like partners to really say, okay, we are going to produce this. We are going to set some deadlines to try to produce those material. This is a proposal that I want to make to all partners. You are welcome at the end of the discussion, say, no, we are not going to do that. Like I said, Nico is not Klimapolis. We are Klimapolis. We discuss and all those things. And the mapping of the institutions that can contribute to each of these research teams, they are the official members of Klimapolis. So others we are going to, and this is also useful to identify any gaps that we may have in those research teams. So let's start for each of those cross-cutting topics. So the first one would be to improve understanding. I don't know if anybody has any generic comments at the moment. If you just want to say anything right now before I move on. No, so if not, I will just go ahead and then we can discuss later. So the first cross-cutting topic is to research to improve understanding of climate impacts in urban areas. So we have those 3 topics: climate change impacts, adaptation and vulnerability, urban climate, and flooding, water shortage, and other extreme events. So those are the institutions. And please then take note if you want to make comments on what, and then we go back after that. Perhaps after each of those themes, we can go back to discuss. So this was the map that I put together. In terms for University of São Paulo, we had IAG, the Faculty of Public Health, and the Institute of Environment of Energy, working on aspects of impact, adaptation, vulnerability. INPE also is working with that. At the Federal University of Rio Grande do Norte, we have the Department of Atmospheric Science, Atmospheric and Climate Science, Department of Civil Engineering, and the Department of Public Policy. We also have Federal University of Alagoas, Campina Grande, and FUNSEMI there in the Northeast. And here in Germany, Max Planck for Meteorology and GERIX. So those are generic, as I mentioned, in terms of what I see that institutions can contribute. For urban climate, we have IAG and UFAO doing that. Renato mentioned about what he's developing, so I could include São Carlos in terms of this looking at impact of urbanization on the urban climate. University of Hamburg here, the group with Heinke also works with those aspects in high resolution modeling, and also Garrix. And for the third point, flooding, water shortage, and other extreme events, at USP we have IAG, São Carlos, and IEE, or IEE, and University of São Judas also working together with other partners. In Rio Grande do Norte, we have the Department of Atmospheric and Climate Science, Civil Engineering, the Federal Institute of Rio Grande do Norte, a new partner, also works with this. UFAL, UFS, Campina Grande, and FONSEMI, and here in Germany, Garrix and the Technical University of Hamburg. So I will try to, let me just minimize this because I want to see if there are comments or if people have any comments. I think we should go step by step on this, and I'm just trying to get Zoom again to see. I can see the raised hands. So if you want to jump in, please go ahead. I see that there are, so just some quick. I see that there are lots of comments already on the chat, and I think that is fine. And if you want to just to send to the whole group instead of sending me privately, it's fine as well, because this is what I need to discuss. We need to discuss, and I will save the chat to put this to update this. So who was going to? I see some people. Martin, yeah, Martin, and then Hendrik.
Yeah, I'm just, well, because the HAW is, I don't see it on the list. So because how could you fill in inside? I was wondering, because I was wondering if there is something like a transdisciplinarity as a kind of a research topic also possible to have it here on that list, because otherwise it becomes too disciplinary and takes away some of the kind of key points of where we make it different.
But this, fair point, but this is the first of the cross-cutting topics. We do have those.
We have something like a meta line too.
Right. The transdisciplinary approach can. We could have a fourth integrative topic. Certainly, this would be something to the evolution of this for this, or that could come under this part here, the stakeholder engagement part plus transdisciplinary, where I would bring the other two more natural sciences kind of towards transdisciplinary. So two approaches, but yeah, thanks for that. So, Hendrik.
On your second slide, where would you put air quality?
Air quality comes here. It's in the next. It's the next.
Sorry.
Yeah. So those would be climate impacts in urban areas. So it's more on the adaptation, vulnerability, the urban climate, and then flooding. Next are more kind of environmental impacts. So air quality would come next. And certainly you are included there. Any other comments?
I have a question. It's okay to have looking at impacts, but for example, when we talk about urban climate, isn't the basic question about development of, urban development, smart urban development, to avoid climate problems? We have to say it better. So since we are not that large group, shouldn't we really concentrate on smart urban development under climate change for example, and then take the climate impact as part of that? I mean, should we not try to recombine a few things afterwards, maybe? Just a remark like this. I don't want to disrupt the discussion now, but thinking about, you know, when we look about air quality, I think we want to build a city that is free of air pollution as much as possible. So to do that, we need to understand a few things, of course, on the way. So just a comment.
No, I totally agree, Guy. And this is something that it may need to improve. I guess when we thought about urban climate was the high resolution modeling or understanding of the impacts. Right?
Yeah, but we need that to design a city that is climate smart.
True.
And
but
so rather than separate it, maybe when we're done with the discussion, we should really think, how can we build them around 2 or 3 topics?
Yeah.
I mean, just a suggestion for you to think.
Sure. I saw Catherine.
Yeah, just a short comment on that, because the way it's organized now, that would be on the 3rd slide, Guy. So it's not missing, it's just on the 3rd, like, Nico, if you go down to slide 4 or
So
that
this
one.
is the
So
first slide where we have
point 9 is governance, 7 is urban planning and design from city to neighborhood scale. So the 3rd package basically is like building.
Yeah, I fully understand that, and thank you, Catherine, and hello, by the way. I think that's right, but I think in building the project, we could use those more societal relevant questions as the basis, and then see what do we need to answer them. And one of them would be to look at impacts and all that. Just to write it, to engage it in a different way. The goal is to do something, to build something, and then we need a lot of science behind it to do it, and not only science in the sense of natural science, but also communication with people, you know, a lot of connection, stakeholders engagement, and all that. So it's just a way of presenting what you have there, which is very good, by the way.
Okay, so I'm making sure that I'm going to take note of all the message that you are sending via the chat, and then I will update those topics here when we discuss how to really prepare something. So I'm going to move to the other slide, which the cross-cutting topic would be research to advance understanding of environmental impacts on society. And here where it comes the air pollution in many aspects, right? So the first one, air pollution control and source attribution. So we would have since the observations, laboratory work, and modeling as well. So can you all see well the way it is? I can try to, because I don't want to lose the connection, because if I share my screen, then it's going the whole way. Can you guys can you
Nico,
see well?
You could click on the format background. Do you see there? On the upper right, format background, there is an X. To the right here. Yeah, okay.
It's because there was another screen on top of that as well. So can you all read well this way? Yep, fine.
Sure.
So for air pollution control and source attribution, I have groups at USP, IAG, Chemistry Institute, each as well. So I have groups at INPE / CEPETEC, UNIFESP, then Federal University of Minas Gerais, the Technical Federal University of Paraná, and PUC Rio. So basically, then Federal University of Rio Grande do Norte with Judith Group, the Federal Institute of Rio Grande do Norte, and here in Germany, Max Planck and University of Cologne. So basically, this is the air quality working group, which already had some meetings to develop some activities, but this is basically those who are part of that. For urban health, and I think this is the our weakest point. As far as I know, from USP, we have the group from, or at least part of what Pedro Jacobi is developing within his thematical. There is aspects related to urban health and water. Paula's group, there's a lot of work in terms of components, and she mentioned yesterday or the day before, I don't remember, Paula. So this is something, but we don't have within Klimapolis groups that are related to medical science and the impacts of, for example, air pollution and other aspects. So there are no groups directly linked to that. So this is just a point I want to make. Then the regional urban footprint, the same with group of Pedro Jacobi's. INPE, I think Camille may be working on something in terms of urban footprint. And I put the Hafen City here, but basically that's you, Catherine. So once we set up the partnership with Freiburg, then this is going to change, unless there are other groups working with that there. So I will open for discussion here. I see Anna with hand raised, so please.
I just comment that in São Judas, we have just included Renata Toledo, who is from Public Health from University of São Paulo. She has a group there, and she's also teaching at São Judas University, and she belongs to the Pedro Jacobi's group. I think she could be included in the Klimapolis team, and she could improve this discussion and connection with health. Urban health.
Anna, can I just ask, fantastic, it's really good to know. Can I just ask for you to put on the chat this information that you just told me, so then it's easier for me to save whatever is in the chat, and then I can compile this information later. Judith, did you have your hands? Yes, please, so go ahead.
Yes, yeah, I think I unraised it, but I cannot check here. But anyway,
that's fine. Go ahead.
Yes, so we just had a brief conversation with Beatriz Cavalcanti from CESAP, from the State Secretary of Health here at Rio Grande do Norte, and I think they can contribute to item 5, urban health. They are linked to the VGR, the federal government's program VGR for air quality and health impacts. And also, so this is would be one more institution for item 5 to have more people working on that in Klimapolis. And also I had recently contact by Professor Eliane Ignotti from UNEMAT in Mato Grosso from Cuiabá. And she's also involved in this VGR program of the federal government, working on health impacts of air pollution. And we can see how we can maybe develop an activity within Klimapolis under interacting with this federal VGR program, sure, involving research, involving the state secretaries and also the federal government.
Sure. Yeah, and I note that the Vinicius group at Federal University of Espírito Santo, they are working with impacts on asthma, and we already have a chat a couple of weeks, right, Vinicius? So anyway, we are going to discuss this. Okay. So if there are no more comments, particularly on this, I'll move to the next one, and then we can start discussing what's the best approach for this whole activity. So the third research, cross-cutting research theme, which is to improve urban design and stakeholder engagement. So we would have urban planning and design from city to neighborhood scales. So Pedro Jacobi's group, or under Pedro Jacobi's leadership, there are some activities being done. The same with Renato at USP São Carlos. Then São Judas. And here in Germany, we'd have Hafen City and then HAV. Right. In terms of social learning, we have Pedro's group. We have each also work with that. São Judas, Instituto Humanitas at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Norte, and then here in Germany, University of Hamburg, and also HAV. And in governance, include the regulations, procedures, accountability. So this was the title, but we can revise in terms if this would be the transdisciplinary, or if the transdisciplinary would be a different story. And then you guys, the experts, would guide on this. So we have also the same, this is basically what the Pedro's temático is on governance in water in São Paulo. At the Federal University of Rio Grande do Norte, to have the Department of Public Policy, the Department of Public Law, and Humanitas Institute. So this here in Portuguese. So bear with me, as you can have imagined. Here in Germany, then we have University of Hamburg, Hafen City. I put the asterisk there, but we do have Martin Wickel working on that, and then would be Catherine as well in Freiburg, and also Garrix, especially with the new project approved there with Hicks. So these are the mapping for this third cross-cutting topic. So comments, please. And then I would welcome for those in this area to comment more. Martin, please.
I was just, well, it's more a rather general comment, because I think when we talk so much about real world labs and this kind of approach, then somehow here it becomes a sub point in one of the, one of the groups. Yep. I don't want to say that everybody has to do real world experiments, but somehow maybe what Guy proposed, so we have the research line, because they're important for funding and for kind of well, publications, everything. So maybe that they be grounded in something like real world problems, and from there asking, so which kind of scientific contributions are necessary to, well, contribute to solving this problem, would be, for me, a kind of a very fitting general approach to the Klimapolis project. But I have not a very good idea how to kind of, integrate that now in the section or in this kind of organization we have here at hand. I just see that somehow this kind of, what I think is a rather large approach, becomes a kind of a subsection under social learning. And I think that makes it a bit like kind of separate from, let's say, air quality. In the end, we discuss it always as being something together.
Yeah, but I think I agree in the sense, but I think this is perhaps the place where would be this integration of the more natural science subjects in the first two slides. So this would bring not only the social aspects, perhaps the basic social political aspects as basic science, but also the integration of the social and natural sciences in a kind of a real world lab experiment. I agree with you. I have no idea how would be the best way to integrate, and even if this transdisciplinary concept would have to be something even separate, would be a fourth kind of or an overarching, right? So I see Renato and Catherine. Renato, please.
Catherine, why not?
Okay, Catherine then.
I just wanted to say that I agree with Martin, and Anita also said this in the chat. So I with this, it should be something like an overarching thing, or like this is then our approach to all these disciplinary themes would be to start thinking from a real world problem. Could be a general approach. But and the question that I had was because also when Guy was saying, already thinking about a specific framing, do you work towards a specific call, or maybe I missed this because I wasn't here on the first day? Or is it more of like strengthening the research agenda in general under Klimapolis, or is it, do you already have a specific?
No, we don't have a specific call, but I think in the past 2 years, we missed quite a few opportunities because there was no research agenda and documents prepared that could say, okay, we can do this quickly. I think we missed quite a few opportunities to submit things because there was no time to further develop. So I think it is a two-way approach. One, to develop the research agenda within Klimapolis, right? In the end, it is a research initiative. The other way is to have something that can be used somehow as a starting point for specific funding calls.
Okay, so then
of course they have to be adapted.
Where the call is not really apt for something transdisciplinary, but the call is different, is maybe purely disciplinary or interdisciplinary, and then you would just shape it. But you could use this map to see who could be a partner.
Absolutely.
In collaboration. But I think as a team, we should really try to also make this transdisciplinary research method real, and work with this method of the real world lab, if there is the occasion to do so. Maybe under this DAAD call that was discussed yesterday. I had heard it in Freiburg already. They were trying to do this for Africa, but I haven't heard about an initiative for Brazil yet. And that could be really a good opportunity, I think, with a very broad spectrum, also lots of money behind it.
Yeah, the Klimapolis Management Committee, we are discussing already how to approach this. Certainly, it is an opportunity not to be missed. And then perhaps, of course, this could be used somehow to build on that. So Renato, please.
Yes, I don't know which call we can attend, but we are preparing on a specific project, research project, coordinated by Paula, for public policies at FAPESP, with the focus of the review of the master plan that starts next year. And this is in the case study of Time Paulista, of course, and we are including other colleagues from Brazil. And in this connection with Christopher and Peter at the Technical University of Hamburg, I think this is a kind of sample of what is interesting in your slides, that somehow when you create the item, you close the range of the subject. So, and what I think what Martin, Catherine, and this experience of transdisciplinary research are saying is that our challenge is how to connect these different subjects in a research project, and not developing, because I can develop a research project of urban planning and design from city to neighborhood scales without Klimapolis. But if I want to understand how the urban planning, urban design from city to neighborhood scales affected the urban climate and is affected by the urban climate changes, so this is different. And I think this is the step that we don't know clearly yet how to take it, to make it. So that's why I think that we have to focus maybe in collaborations in between these topics that you propose here. It is important to, first of all, classify and make the topics, the research teams. It's okay, that's all right. So reading this, I can figure out which connections I can propose in this map. And this is the challenge for
Renato, I completely agree. And just to make it clear, those are not my topics. Those came,
yeah, I know.
Right. So those topics came from a discussion within the Klimapolis meeting. However, I agree with your point. However, nothing stops that whoever is going to, for example, write something about what can be done in urban planning, or for example, this number 7 on urban planning and design from city to neighborhood scales, you can always mention the need to integrate with other areas within Klimapolis, right? That you are not going only to describe architecture and so on. You make the link there. So for those who have worked with putting together these science plans for larger projects, it's exactly this, how you mix one part to another, and they are not stank, right? So it is something that it needs to really weave through the whole document, the links between one and another. I saw Martin, sorry if I missed anybody else, but I saw Martin put hands up. Please, Martin.
Yeah, because I think it's, well, of course there is a possibility, but it will never be done. So by kind of, working into this kind of separation and links, you are actually separating the different disciplines already, and then you can only reach out for somebody on the point where you know that there somebody else is involved. But the real interest, according to my experience on transdisciplinary projects, it's really interesting that by working together, you identify some points where you see a connection that you have not had in your mind beforehand, and this comes from concentrated around a certain solution. I do understand that for kind of the normal way of funding and supporting science, such a research plan is important. But on the other hand side, I strongly agree with Anita, Katrin, and especially as Renato said it, the special challenge for us as a network is about how we can actually come up with these points that are relevant and to find the connections where it makes sense to work with somebody else that we do not have in mind and can assume from the beginning. And that's why I think something like how Guy proposed to have real world situations or real world problems at first, and then see how actually there are different disciplines or different scientific projects and people could address and what they can contribute to that program, is also equally important to find these new links, because otherwise I'm just a little bit afraid that everything stays somehow in the categories and drawers they're in, because it's much easier. That's the way how I work with other people together. They know my language, they know the ways how I usually work, and then it just, so there's a certain tendency of just staying within your comfort zone and not tackling this challenge of suddenly working with somebody else. And that is just kind of a problem, how to kind of balance this new or other way of working together that at least for me would be really interesting in that project. And on the other side, of course, responding to traditional ways of promoting a project and accessing funding.
Yep. No, I agree. It is a challenge. Guy, please.
Yeah, I think the list of projects that we have seen is very useful in the sense that it shows, basically it's an inventory of what's around, what's there, what we could use, what we could put together. So that's, from that point of view, it's very, very useful. But I think if we want to be credible, beyond the words of interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, we have to have one, I would say, one major drive, something that is the central theme, if you want. And, it could be something like designing the urban area, the climate smart or whatever, environmental smart urban areas of tomorrow. And then to do that, you need a number of contributions. Now, when I see, for example, the list, the topics are not at the same level. For example, social learning is much more than a research topic. It's a way we have to operate this project. We have to, it's a methodology, if you want, it's a way of how to do it. The link with stakeholders is another one that needs to be included. So perhaps the next challenge for us is to move this list into a design, you know, like a graph, where we show the big arrow in the middle, which is where we want to go on a major topic, and then how all these different possible joint project between German and Brazilian people will feed into this this arrow. Look at it as a big river, and then you have the river, the water coming from different sectors that come together and fuel the big. I don't know if it's the river in Manaus or the river in Germany, whatever. But trying to articulate and put entropy in the system. Last comment, this is a German-Brazilian or Brazilian-German project. We have to show the advantage somehow of bringing those two teams together. I mean, we don't want, I mean, Brazilian could do a project like this, German could do a project like this, but what is the added value of working together? That needs to come out somehow. I don't know exactly how to do it, but just a point I want to make.
Great, thanks, Guy. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree that, but we can't forget that we do have a mission statement of the laboratory, which perhaps brings this.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
Right, it's in there about resilient cities.
Also evolve a little bit because you know, if we talk about the institute or whatever, which is coming out of Klimapolis, it might have a slightly different emphasis, and our emphasis, it was designed in a very broad sense, so maybe we can be a bit more specific or account for the expertise that we have.
Yeah. Okay. Edu, did you have your hands up?
I think Catherine is first, then I could.
Yeah, Catherine.
Okay, so Catherine, please.
And then
I just had an idea when I saw this map that Paula just posted. Anita, you were doing something like that when I, at some event from the Clicks community, you showed like how over CliSUP and Clicks, the different actors started publishing together and doing things together, and it was somehow changing over time. And I remember this picture was very powerful, I think, in this message of how you can make a network grow. And you could even put it in different colors. Like I remember you had the social science and the natural science, how they were not linked in the beginning at all. And then step by step over time, there were more links and more things happening. Maybe we could have something similar for Klimapolis as well. Yeah, so as a motivation also to do more in the future, but also to document first linkages that start growing and yeah, see where we have maybe joint publications, joint projects, and so on. Just as a, it's not answering the big project question now, but as a tool or as something that we could create to follow up our linkages and our networking activities.
Great, thanks, Catherine. I think it is a good way. Anita, if you find out this, just if you can send me a or whatever. Not need to be today. Just before I move to Edu, I mean, we can continue with this discussion for another 3 days, I guess. But I know people are busy and everything. Technically, we would have 10 minutes. Perhaps we can extend a little bit more if people can stay for another. Yeah. So we are trying to stay for another 10 minutes and see how it goes. Edu, please.
Okay, I promise, less than a minute. No, just building on these ideas. Just one suggestion, perhaps maybe it can help you, Nico. Maybe we can run a survey within Klimapolis with the members of Klimapolis to see how, you know, and based on the results, we can, I don't know how to make this social gram and so on. We can wonder, we can think about this. but based on the very much bottom-up information that comes, because instead of you asking every single member of the Klimapolis, maybe we have like a standard survey. I don't know, just one idea, so that we can afterwards bring this whole interconnections together, and then plot this in a way that we can see in a sociogram or whatever. Just one idea. And I don't know if anyone is expert on this network data analysis and this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I think we can find people who are working on with this. Martin, please.
Just we have done some of these network graphs, or they can be super simple. They don't say much, and just there's a connection, but then become really powerful in defining the connection and then representing it in a dynamic way. We can do that, but it's kind of work. And as I just see with Anita, where she said it was 100 hours just to get the co-authorship, so it's a bit like how to find a compromise between the two. But I agree, it would be nice to have that.
It was hundreds of hours, not 100.
100.
I can do it in 5.
Several hundred.
Right. So before I don't think we came to a conclusion on how to proceed. I think there are many steps, and I think this will have to somehow take stock of this within the management committee to try to identify how to approach this and then bring to potential solutions. I don't know if either Anita or Rita, as the co-directors, want to just close up and wrap up in terms of how you see these for bringing the future of Klimapolis. Feel free to just jump in.
Yeah, today I was mainly listening to a lot of fascinating suggestions, and also the presentations showing the things that we have achieved already. That was very good to keep in mind, and building up on that. So I don't have a very simple, straightforward strategy how to proceed. I think a lot. We will, of course, now analyze all the suggestions that you made and talk about it in the management committee, I think. But a lot will depend also on whether we find 1 or 2 or 3 really big proposals that are successful over time, that will, I agree that we need to start working around interesting topics and just do it. But, in the end, we really need the funding that keeps us going, because collaboration is nice, but it is always an extra effort and takes time, and is sometimes nerve-wracking, and can be very difficult. So you need to have some resources to ease it, or to be a continuous engine that is driving it and pushing us again and again.
Yeah, it is a vicious circle. That's
a vicious. It can be a virtuous circle someday, hopefully. But yeah, there's some kind of circle in it.
Yep. Yes.
I don't know. Maybe Rita, do you want to add some?
I think we definitely are going to work a little bit more on all the comments that you've made, and I think it was really amazing to have you all here for these 3 days, 2.5 hours. We know that everybody have other projects, other duties, but you are here. So I think this gives me something that I think that we have to talk more. And this, as Nico said, this shared this could be really something that we could work on, something like this chat. Oh, I have something like this, I have something like that. And then the others could just pop up and say, yeah, I would like to work with you. So I think this would be really one of the main objectives of Klimapolis, to connect everybody, right? So thank you really very much for being here.
Great, and I thank you, Anita, Rita, for the guidance that you have given through this process. All the members of the management committee, with all the discussions that we had, but last but not least, all the partners, because without the partners, Klimapolis doesn't happen. So, like Rita said, thank you very much for all the participants. Anita, I think you want to say something?
I would like to thank you, of course, because you keep the whole thing together, and I hope that we can continue with that. And I would also like to thank the team in Natal, and I would have loved to really be with you. I hope next time we can do that. But thanks for the spirit.
We're missing Brazil, that's for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
And then just before we finish, I would like to have to thank again Jean Tavares' group at the Federal Institute of Rio Grande do Norte for enabling the live stream via YouTube, because it's something that when we decided, I said, right, I'm in trouble, because I had no idea how to do that. And they were really professional. We had trouble today because lights went out in Natal for some point, but it restored. We are back. So thank you very much for Jean and Larissa, who have helped a lot. And just before we close, as you probably have seen in so many of those virtual meetings and everything, if you want, not mandatory, just have your camera on. Just want to have a screenshot here, and then I can send to everybody as a kind of a record for the meeting. It's certainly not mandatory. Oh, I can see Dave there. I haven't met Dave. Heinz Schlussen put us in contact. We have to discuss more. There are a lot of things to be done. So if you just want to put your camera, let me just, I know that some people don't have the camera on, and I will try to make a screenshot. If you want to wave, give a wave, a smile and everything. It's just like taking pictures all the time.
Group picture.
Group picture. Great. I'll see what I managed to get here, and I'll send you all. I'll send you all the pictures later. Okay, so guys, thank you very much, and I hope we will see you somewhere soon. So stay safe. Thanks for participating. Take care.
Bye bye. Thanks to all of you. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye bye.